Deep in Ecuador's Upano Valley, LiDAR scans showed this massive network of ancient cities, grids of roads, canals, and platforms stretching across 100 square miles. In Brazil's Acre state, giant geoglyphs are carved into the earth, some nearly 1,000 feet wide. And on an island at the mouth of the Amazon, there are giant mounds of dirt, some 6 stories high, all built intentionally. These are ancient lost civilizations discovered in the Amazon jungle. Forget what you thought you knew about the ancient Amazon. For ages, people pictured these small wandering groups living there, but that wasn't really the case. In Ecuador's Upano Valley, for example, archaeologists have basically pulled back the curtain on a massive interconnected network of ancient cities. They cover over 100 square miles with thousands of rectangular platforms that were likely homes and ceremonial spots. What's even wilder is how they found it though. Researchers used this super cool technology called LiDAR, which shoots laser pulses from an airplane right through the dense jungle canopy. It's like X-ray vision, but for the forest. And with it, researchers have found these grids of roads and paths with canals connecting them. Some roads stretch an amazing 16 miles. This tells us that people were seriously organized and had some impressive knowledge of engineering. They built a complex urban society, possibly home to tens, even hundreds of thousands of people, growing corn and sweet potatoes, probably brewing chicha. It completely flips our understanding of ancient Amazonian life. Imagine flying over the Amazon and spotting these enormous geometric shapes carved right into the ground. That's exactly what started happening in the 70s in Brazil's Acre state as parts of the forest were being cleared for farming. These incredible carvings are called geoglyphs, and they're massive patterns ancient Amazonian people created by digging deep trenches. You have perfect circles, squares, rectangles, some of them stretching over 980 feet wide and up to 13 feet deep. There are hundreds of these formations spread across more than 300 archaeological sites in Acre alone. Archaeologists think these geoglyphs date back as far as 1000 BCE. As for exactly what they were for, that's still a bit of a mystery. Some think they were gathering places for ceremonies. They may have also been used for defense though, a bit like trenches, but that's just an idea. What's nuts is that these ancient groups transformed the landscape on such a massive scale without any metal tools. They only used stone tools to dig these things. Right at the mouth of the Amazon River, there's a huge island called Marajo. For a long time, researchers knew about some intricate pottery found there, but then there was the discovery that ancient people on the island built these massive dirt mounds. The culture known as the Marajoara were living there from about 400 to 1600 CE. These were deliberately constructed mounds. Some were gigantic, reaching heights of 60 feet. That's like a 6-story building made of dirt. They built their villages right on top of these mounds, probably trying to stay safe, dry during floods. Inside and around these mounds, archaeologists have found detailed pottery, burial sites, and clear signs that there was farming going on. They were growing crops like maize and a starchy root vegetable called manioc. These all point to a highly organized society that mastered living in a very challenging environment for over 1,000 years. Alright, so this next one is super cool because it doesn't have to do with buildings, but about the very soil itself. Soil ancient people actually made. It's called terra preta, which simply means black soil in Portuguese, and you find it in patches all over the Amazon basin. What makes it so special is that it's incredibly rich, dark, sometimes several feet deep, and way more fertile than the natural reddish Amazonian soil. Scientists have figured out that ancient Amazonians created this soil on purpose. They mixed things like charcoal, broken pottery pieces, plant waste, and animal bones into the regular dirt. This created a super rich, self-sustaining soil that stayed fertile for centuries, sometimes even thousands of years. It's estimated that up to 10% of the non-flooded Amazon land might be this material. This was a major discovery because it proved these ancient groups weren't just living in the Amazon, that they were actively reshaping their environment. It's pretty cool. This one sort of blends ancient legends with modern day exploration. I'm talking about the ongoing search for Paititi, and for centuries explorers and a good number of treasure hunters have been obsessed with finding this supposed massive Inca city, hidden deep in the Amazon jungle, just east of the Andes Mountains. There are historical accounts from Spanish conquistadors who said they heard of this secret city where Inca nobles supposedly fled with their gold and treasures after the Spanish arrived. Now, we haven't found a single city of gold like in the movies yet, but recent archaeological work and satellite images are pointing to something out there. For example, in 2007, researchers found a bunch of ancient structures, things like ceremonial platforms and old homes in super remote parts of southeastern Peru, exactly where many believe Paititi could be. And there are still places being discovered under the thick canopy of trees all the time. By archaeology standards, anyway. I don't mean like literally every day. Point is, the Amazon is so massive, who knows what else could be hiding out there. Maybe there's some truth to this legend. If you've ever flown over northern Bolivia, especially during the dry season, you might spot thousands of ancient earthworks. This area is known as the Llanos de Moxos, or the Beni Savannas. There are incredibly complex systems of raised fields, long causeways, canals, artificial mounds, and forest islands that were intentionally planted. This entire engineered landscape stretches out over a massive 50,000 square miles. Archaeologists have discovered that different cultures built these things over thousands of years, starting as far back as 800 CE, and were around right up until Europeans showed up. The ancient Amazonians were brilliant engineers, figuring out how to completely redesign their environment to handle both the extreme wet and dry seasons. Those raised fields were perfect for farming even when everything else was flooded. Canals helped with irrigation and transportation, and the artificial mounds were where they built their villages. It totally flips the script on the old idea that the Amazon was just this green desert that couldn't support big populations. At Serra de Capivara National Park in northeastern Brazil, there's an insane collection of rock art, with some sites holding thousands of individual paintings spread across hundreds of natural rock shelters. The pieces depict everything from hunting scenes and daily life to animals, rituals, and you also have your more abstract symbols. Some of these paintings have been around for a very long time. Some could be up to 25,000 years old, maybe even more. That makes them some of the oldest evidence of human presence in the Americas. These people have been living here for a very, very long time. It challenges the earlier theories about when and how humans first settled in the Americas, pushing back the timeline quite a bit. Now, like I said earlier, for ages people thought that the Amazon just couldn't support big settled groups before Europeans showed up. Like, sure, there were some small tribes, but no major cities. Well, new discoveries have shown that there were large areas of what some are calling garden cities. These super modified landscapes stretching across different regions. We're uncovering tons of proof that these ancient communities were master forest managers, practicing large-scale farming and living in settlements that were more spread out, not crammed together like European cities, but still connected by trails and clearings. Scientists are digging up more and more evidence of them intentionally planting trees, carefully managing what plants were useful, and not to mention that super soil that we chatted about earlier. All of this points to them supporting way bigger communities than anyone ever thought. So no, the Amazon wasn't this untapped wilderness. It was actually very well managed. Deep in Rondonia, Brazil, archaeologists have been finding proof ancient fortified settlements. I'm not talking about just a few simple ditches. These are big, some of what look like stone walls or foundations, which is a huge deal because stone is not a common building material in the Amazon. For example, at places like the Toatonio waterfall area on the Madeira River, they found signs of large settlements that were occupied for thousands of years, with some going back as far as 8,000 years. The size of these places and how long people lived there, plus the fact that they had defenses, it tells us that these communities were pretty established and would have needed to protect their resources and land. Alright, this last one is super fascinating because it's about a very distinct type of settlement discovered using satellite imagery. In the upper Tapajos region of the Brazilian Amazon, researchers have found evidence of ancient villages laid out in almost perfect circles. They've been deliberately designed this way, some dating back as far as 1300 CE. These villages, often called ring villages, show a really unique and organized social structure. You typically see a central plaza or a clearing surrounded by a ring of houses. Sometimes archaeologists have spotted outer rings of earthworks or ditches, which probably means they were for defense or just to mark off their space, and most of these places are being found using drones and satellite imagery. I've been your host, James. I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.